Some military aircraft look like works of art, their design and shapes captivating the eye, like the Russian Su-35, or its American counterpart, the F-18, or the European Eurofighter. The list could go on forever, and each of the aircraft mentioned has its own unique beauty and aesthetic. When you hear the word fighter, these are the kinds of planes that come to mind. But when the next three machines were being designed, aesthetics probably took a back seat because the way they look is downright off-putting. And it seems like even the pilot might not have wanted to fly such a craft. So what are these machines, and why do they look the way they do? Could there be a hidden purpose behind their appearance? Could their terrible looks be justified by high effectiveness? You'll find out in this video, because these are the three ugliest aircraft in history. Our first contender comes straight from the final experiments of Nazi Germany, the Lippisch P.13a. Germany during World War II is generally known for its bold and ambitious projects. Some were successful, some not so much. Our subject belongs to the latter category. At a time when fuel was catastrophically scarce, German engineers tried to come up with very creative solutions. The P-13A was supposed to be a supersonic fighter powered not by aviation fuel, but by pulverized coal. Yes, you heard that right. A plane that would fly on coal dust. Imagine fueling a high-tech aircraft with barbecue coal and expecting it to break the sound barrier. Quite ambitious on their part. The aircraft itself looked just as strange as its engine. It had a shark delta wing, the cockpit was awkwardly positioned on top, and a huge round air intake dominated the entire front of the nose. From some angles, it looked more like a flying shovel, from others like an iron with wings. Definitely not something you'd call elegant. But I would describe this plane as that paper airplane everyone made as a child, but turned upside down. During the design phase, engineers believed the aircraft could reach incredible speeds. In reality, the coal-powered jet engine was completely untested, and the aerodynamics were highly questionable. A full-size prototype was never completed before the end of the war, and no one really knows if it could have flown at all. In the end, the P-13A became a perfect example of Germany's obsession with wonder weapons, wild, impractical ideas born out of desperation. It may never have taken to the skies, but it unquestionably deserves a place on our list as one of the strangest and ugliest aircraft in history. The next contender for the title of one of the ugliest aircraft in history, who would have thought, is again a German plane from World War II, namely the Reconnaissance Blohm Voss BV 141. At first glance, this aircraft looks like it was generated by an early AI that got completely confused with the composition of the object. The fuselage with the pilot's cockpit is shifted to one side, while on the other side, there's a huge wing with the engine. The asymmetry immediately catches the eye. Most engineers and designers of the time made aircraft as symmetrical as possible, but Blohm Voss went their own way, and the result looks both strange and frightening. The idea was purely practical. The offset cockpit gave the pilot an excellent view for reconnaissance, while the central engine and wing provided stability in flight. On paper, it was brilliant, but visually the plane looked more like an experimental monster than a combat aircraft. Despite the unusual design, the BV-141 was fully functional. It could fly, carry out reconnaissance missions, and even had no significant handling problems. Nevertheless, the Germans never managed to put it into mass production, partly due to assembly difficulties and competition with more conventional aircraft. In the end, the Blohm Voss BV-141 went down in history as one of the strangest and ugliest military aircraft. It proved that sometimes engineering genius and aesthetics are completely unrelated. And finally, our third contender, the tiny McDonnell XF-85 Goblin. Ironic, isn't it? Probably one of the strangest and simultaneously most ambitious projects in U.S. aviation during the Cold War. This miniature fighter was designed to live inside a massive B-36 bomber, like a baby in a bag. The idea was simple. The bomber would operate deep behind enemy lines, and if necessary, a small fighter would be released to defend it against enemy aircraft, just like bees protecting their hive. After combat, the Goblin was supposed to dock back with the bomber, parent plus child concept in reality. Visually, the Goblin looked, well, like a flying egg with wings. The cockpit was tiny, the wings short, and the tail barely visible. Because of these proportions, the aircraft looked ridiculous and strange, especially when released from inside the huge B-36. Technically, the project was unsuccessful. The small engine didn't provide enough power to maneuver effectively against enemy fighters. Imagine such a tiny plane in an air battle against Soviet MiG-15s. Its only weapon might have been to make the enemy laugh to death. The main problem, however, was docking with the bomber after combat. Even experienced pilots struggled to catch the bomber with the cable on return, making the concept practically unworkable. As a result, the XF-85 Goblin never went into production, remaining merely an ambitious and unusual experiment. Despite its strange proportions and operational difficulties, it is forever remembered as one of the most exotic projects in military aviation. A tiny fighter that tried to change the rules of aerial combat, but remained more of a dream than a real combat machine. So here they are, the 3 ugliest aircraft in history. Each one is stranger than the last, but each carries a piece of engineering bravery and historical experimentation. Which of these aircraft, in your opinion, deserves the title of the ugliest? Let us know in the comments.